Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thanks also to the organizers of that conference. Those of you working in an insurance company or with an insurance intermediary are probably familiar with the following situation. You have a commercial vision, you have a business plan, you have a dedicated team, you even have IT on your side. You're a very happy person. Until the moment you go to see your legal department, if this is feasible at all. And this is exactly the point I'd like to address in the following 15 minutes. What are the obstacles and what are the opportunities in European regulation for digitalization? I will present to you a couple of business cases where we identified it is possible, or at this stage it is impossible and certainly needs some improvement by the European legislator. We are operating in a couple of markets, 25 overall. 14 are located inside the European Union. And something we can say is that the appetite of our customers varies quite significantly from country to country. So the customer demand for digital services is certainly not the same in Austria, in Poland, Czech Republic, or Estonia. So there are significant differences, and maybe a first remark would be that those demands really have to be taken into account. There's no help in overdoing things in digitalization if the customer base is not fit for it or not asking for it. On the other hand, it's no help in being quite restrictive and sticking to old methods when the market is more mature and more open to that. So that's maybe the first remark on the variety of insurance markets we observe in Central and Eastern Europe. Now, let's turn to the opportunities. I will keep that a bit shorter because that's already settled, that's what works, and then let's concentrate then later on what doesn't work, where are the obstacles. One of the opportunities already presented also by William, that the European legislator provided us kindly with a series of EU templates. One template for basically life insurance products, the insurance-based investment products. It's the key information document that will see the light of day on the 1st of January 2018, and we will be in the happy situation as product manufacturers to provide the market and our potential customers with this key ID. Then a bit later in 2018, we will be required to present an insurance product information document, the IPID, already mentioned by Paul, based on the IDD. Both have something very important in common. They are fully structured. They are providing for some kind of comparability between different products. And that's an essential point. When you look at insurance aggregators across the markets, what they primarily compare is price. They rarely compare product features. And that's exactly what counts in insurance. What is covered, what is not covered, are there any sublimits, are there deductibles, are there some obligations, etc., etc. It's exactly about that. So these EU templates will form a certain basis for online aggregators to compare more than just prices, to compare product features, and that's basically in insurance what it's all about. So that would be the first business case, and we clearly see already some aggregators doing that. There will be some more doing that in the near future. The next one is, again, IDD. IDD is providing, and maybe that's not so crystal clear when you look at the legal texts that are quite demanding, I have to say. There is a very clear process in IDD on how to distribute, in particular, insurance-based investment products, or also, of course, non-life insurance products. There's a clear process inside, and this process requires quite a lot of documentation, quite a lot of formalities. So if you would train your sales forces, your agents, and also intermediaries in all that, they would be extremely frustrated by all this paperwork, by all these formalities, bureaucracy, etc., etc. And there, digitalization plays a crucial role. You can't do it without digitalization. There is so much formalities, there's so much administration, there is so much bureaucracy, you can't do it without digital support. So when we've been asked, Dieter, transposing the IDD, what is a major cost for you in VIG? One of the major cost drivers is providing each and every one with laptops. It's really about having digital support for everybody to comply with all these rules. If you do this on paper, if you do this with formulas, it's out of the question to do that. So that's the second business case we identified in digitalization. Of course, IDD also provides for the demands and needs test, something that's not new for intermediaries. We have it in the Insurance Mediation Directive from 2002. It's an old story. Now this will also be applied to our directly employed sales forces in VIG and other insurance companies. And this demands and needs test, it's not, a psychological certificate. You don't have to explore the deep needs and demands of your customer from a psychological perspective, but you should be a careful listener. You should really try to grasp the full spectrum of demands and needs of your customer in all areas of life and profession. It may be housing, it may be sports, it may be travel, work, pensions, mobility, and many others. This is just an indicative list. It's certainly not exhaustive. But there are digital tools in place, and we developed quite a couple of them in VIG in different markets that we will share within the group that perfectly address the customer's needs and support the sales forces to discover all that. Because something for sure the customer does not like is being questioned 25, 30, 35 questions. That's something he doesn't like. But if he's guided through a nice digital environment, disclosing his demands and needs and identifying that, providing for some documentation, I think we are all satisfied, product manufacturers, distributors, and customers alike. So that's the next business case and opportunity for the insurance industry. The next one relating to the General Data Protection Regulation, GDPR. It will provide for a new right of policyholders to ask the old provider to transfer the generic data to the new provider. So in case a customer is no longer satisfied with his current insurer and says he wants, of course, to join VIG, then there is the possibility in the GDPR that the old provider has to transfer all this data. Everything's done. You're probably familiar with this process in banking. There we have it already. We will have it based on the GDPR. One important remark from the practical side, it's only about generic data. It's about the data that the customer provided to the old insurance carrier. It's not the data generated out of the insurance contract. So any loss ratio, risk profiles, and so on and so forth, this is nothing. It has to be passed on to the new carrier. That's the important part. It's only generic data. But anyhow, it makes life more easy for the customer when all this data is transferred from A to B. This is the first business case based upon GDPR. The next one we identified is, of course, risk-based pricing. It's all about segmentation. It's all about automated profiling. Automated profiling, of course, always under the condition of consent by the potential customer, will be possible based on the GDPR. That's the playground for data analysts. I just learned yesterday that we have a dedicated analytics team somewhere here in Vienna working on such things. Very interesting to speak to these people. They're very different from people you know so far. It's really the young guys, of course also women, working on that, doing everything about data economy, data analytics, different world. Interesting to see them speaking to actuaries. That's the next battle between two professional groups. We have the actuaries on the one side, the data analysts on the other side. Will be interesting to see that. Anyhow, automated profiling will be possible based on the GDPR. And this, of course, provides you with a series of opportunities, when we relate to certain segments, may be based upon your residence, may be based upon your family status, your financial status, your employment status, and so on and so forth. Because that's an important part. Also, when you speak to regulators and in particular legislators, they always think that we as insurers put all the risk in one basket, then we shake it and everything's fine. Of course, we have to know what is inside this basket, and we need all that information. We need more granularity. We need more information about what risk we take in this basket. It's not a black box, preferably. It's something that is controlled by your actuaries and your data analysts. So therefore, also GDPR will provide for that. And there will be now a safe legal environment for that. So that's about the bright side, the positive side. But those of you familiar with Star Wars, there is also a dark side. And now we may turn to the dark side. Where are the obstacles? Where are the obstacles for digitalization of insurers? I have 5 minutes to share that with you, but I will be quick. Thanks to William, I can skip this slide. You heard in depth about the challenges for electronic communication. No longer paper mountains, you have to shift from A to B. There is a lot of electronic opportunities, but there are still some restrictive conditions in the relevant European acts. In the IDD, it is in the PRIPS regulation, and also in the Distance Marketing Directive. So the world is far from being perfect. We are on the right track, but there is still something to be done when it comes to electronic communication. The next one is improving access for new customers to getting a quote in a very easy, a very convenient way. I brought along this example from Poland, a very positive one. It's a vehicle certification certificate, and it provides for a QR code. And this QR code contains the data about the vehicle owner, about the vehicle itself, and it also provides for a link, a dynamic link to a bonus-malus database. This database is nationwide, so it's regularly updated, its current data. And this provided us in Poland with one of our operations to provide potential customers at the ATM, the automatic teller machine, with a quote for an MTPL insurance. You can directly pay there. Your insurance policy is printed out at the ATM. That's it. 3 minutes to buy a wonderful MTPL insurance with VIG. Perfect world. It's working in Poland. It is not working in other countries because there are some regulatory restrictions. This would be one example. From our understanding, the Motor Insurance Directive is about to be reviewed in the very near future. By the end of this year, we are expecting a proposal from the European Commission, and one of the proposals, potential proposals, will be on the motor claims history statement. So it's exactly about that. So how can we standardize information about the claims history in order to provide our potential customers with adequate quote? So there is a lot of potential inside. Hopefully it will be taken up by the European Commission. The next one is about cyber risk. According to the European Commission, throughout 2016, we had registered claims of about 60 billion euro. 60 billion euro caused by hacking attacks, by cyber attacks. This is the registered claims. The informal number is certainly much higher. Of course, there is a certain expectation from the public to the insurance industry. You can cover everything. You're the specialists in risk management. Why can't you simply cover all the cyber risk? And of course, also there we need data. We need databases, we need experience, we need a track record. And there has been a discussion with our European Federation about access to databases of data protection authorities in order to have such a dedicated database, to have access to this data from data breach notifications. Unfortunately, until today, there is no satisfactory solution for that. Insurance Europe made an excellent proposal, again, for another template, how this data breach notification could look like. We need it in a standardized way. If data breach notification from each and everyone in the economy is not collected in a standardized way, it's useless. This database will be useless for underwriting cyber risk, so therefore it is essential how this data will be played into the database. So we need it in terms of multiple choice, in terms of numeric fields, etc., etc. This is essential. If the database of data protection authorities is not sourced on such a standardized mechanism, such a standardized instrument, it's certainly useless. It's a crucial issue for our immediate future for underwriting cyber risk. I come to the last point. I will be very brief, understanding I have 2 more minutes, but 2 more minutes for motor insurance. I think there's never enough time for motor insurance. It's the basics. It's the bread and butter business, particularly in Central and Eastern Europe. There are different technical options to access data in the vehicle. You find them here. These are the standard options, A, B, and C. A is more the current version. You use a smartphone, you use a dongle that you just plug in your car to track a certain driving behavior of your customer, and you may reward it if this customer is not driving to the discotheque on a Friday night or on a Saturday night. Maybe he's doing that on a Tuesday night, but anyhow, you can reward this driving behavior. That's possible already today, and we have some competitors doing that. There's another solution, which is the extended vehicle concept, which means that all the data from the driving data from the vehicle is simply put into a cloud. That's the extended vehicle concept, as I mentioned. It's an external data server platform, a cloud, and there are some automotive manufacturers that say that this is a B2B marketplace. So we will open this marketplace, you can access it, but they also control it. So that's the second option. The third option, and it's clearly the preferred option of the whole insurance industry, is a built-in open telematics platform. Each and every one can access this OTP. It's not there. There is no regulation in place. We really have to do things there. Why we have to do that, and that's my last slide for today, we need to empower customers. We need to empower customers to choose. Currently, they're locked in. They have no choice. And what we have to provide for is equal access to this vehicle data. This is crucial because for now, we are confronted with a data monopoly of the car manufacturing industry. You find that on the left-hand side, that's the market situation. It's all based on a contractual agreement. But the essential part of this graphic on the left-hand side is between you, the insurance industry, and the customer, there is the car manufacturer. There's something in between, having negotiating power and having the right of control to access the customer and also the providers. It's not only, of course, about the insurance industry. There are also some other economic operators. It's repair stations, it's automobile clubs, it's all other automotive suppliers. So it's many, many other economic operators that have an interest in that. Of course, only if the customer agrees. That's for sure. That's an uncontested precondition if the customer agrees so. And what is the target situation? The target situation is to have a legal provision so that customers can freely choose their provider in insurance, they can freely choose their repair station, and so on and so forth. And we are very, very far from that situation. We're about to have some discussions in Brussels on that, but we're very far. If we start now, we will have a legal provision probably by 2022. 2022. That's a lot of time we really have to use. So therefore, we have to get things done, and that's it. This brings me to the end of my presentation. Thank you very much. You see, there are still some massive, significant obstacles in place that urgently need to be addressed by the European legislator because it's about very basic things. It's about access to our customers, and that's all about in insurance. Thank you very much.